Hey there traders, and welcome back for episode number 149 from the Stock Bandit. I'm sure glad that you've joined me. So in this episode, I just want to take a look at some recent market leaders and some big shifts of momentum and shifts of direction that some of them are starting to exhibit. And I think that that's definitely worth noting, especially when the indices have yet to stall out and really roll over. I should say they have yet to start moving lower. At this point, we've seen some recent consolidation or basing activity in the major averages. We've seen attempts at pullbacks and rallies, and the verdict is still out on that. We could certainly see some kind of a pullback for this market at this point. So let's take a look at some of these leaders. I'll show you exactly what I'm referring to. Up first, Akamai, AKAM. Here's a stock off the August lows. Just good, steady buying pressure. Every little dip and rest was met with more new highs in this stock as it just continued to rally. But the break of this uptrend line right here a few weeks ago kind of shifted the short-term direction of this stock. It started to roll over a little bit, and now it's just accelerating downward, and we're starting to see some heavy volume accompany that. That represents a pretty significant change of character for this stock. Take a look at CITRIX Systems, which is another one here that's been rallying steadily off the June low and the July low. Had this nice breakaway gap and never looked back. It never did attempt to fill that gap. Instead, it kind of rallied and based and then really just continued on higher until more recently it's now starting to roll over a little bit. And then today's bar with a 14% decline and a major surge in volume here has taken this thing back below multi-week support here. It was in this trading range here, this high channel, and it's now breaking down extremely hard and certainly could continue lower. Another one, VHC. Here's a stock that went from the mid single digits up to over $20 today. And then we saw a major reversal to the downside as this bearish engulfing bar kicked in. We not only took out yesterday's high to the upside, but we closed well below yesterday's low, and we saw a record volume in this stock as well. So this thing had really made a parabolic move. So to see a nasty reversal like this today is not a big surprise, but this certainly has been a recent market leader, and it's now changing directions very rapidly here. VMware, here's another one that's been trending higher, going all the way back into 2008. Basically, this thing has just been steadily rising here and really has shown lots of strength this year in particular, and since the July low. This thing has trended steadily higher. It's been hugging this uptrend line, which it just broke last week. And since then, we've seen one little attempt at a bounce, which was on Tuesday. And then, of course, Wednesday came in and just slammed the stock lower by about 9% and major volume along with that. So this rising trend line break is significant. And here's a market leader that is now starting to turn lower. And it looks like the type of stock that the bounces may start getting sold rather than the dips getting bought like we have seen for so long in this stock. CRM, here's another one here. It's been trending steadily higher here in the last few months. It saw this pullback here over the last couple of weeks, minor bounce attempt on Tuesday, and then big turn lower on Wednesday today with nearly an 8% decline, and that's even with a finish well off the session low. We also saw giant volume along with that. This thing now looks like it's ready to correct a little bit further. I certainly wouldn't be initiating a short sale here, but this is not the type of dip that you want to step in and buy. Another one, F5 Networks, FFIV. This thing has given multiple buy signals on the way up. It's been clearing these bases one after another. It's clearing short-term patterns. It's clearing intermediate-term patterns. It's been continuing higher and higher, and the trend has been relentlessly up until today, which does not necessarily mean that the trend has changed, but in the short term, this is a trend change. So we've seen this stock has been basing here recently, did attempt to break out, and then it has now failed in pretty spectacular fashion with today's 12.5% decline on giant volume. So, another example here of a market leader that's now coming under very, very heavy pressure. Finally, the last one I want to show you is Netflix, NFLX, which obviously needs no introduction. This thing has made a tremendous run over the past year and change. More recently, it's really run from the 90s up into the mid 170s. So incredible run in this stock. However, we saw a pretty important reversal last week, which has since stuck. Now, this short-term support that the stock had been holding above has now turned into some resistance. We saw a minor bounce attempt in the last couple of sessions up to that area, and now the stock is beginning to turn lower. Now, we still have short-term higher lows in place in the stock, and therefore the trend is still up. We still have short-term higher highs in this stock, but this is definitely one to keep a very close eye on. If this thing does take out these lows in here from about the third week of September in the 140 area, then this thing could certainly come under heavy fire and see some rapid retracement back to the downside. So not looking to short these, but I do want to point them out as recent market leaders, as we've seen the major indices kind of stall out here. Let's take a good close look here at the Nasdaq right quick, which obviously made a big move up in the early portion of September. Late September, it has kind of stalled out a little bit, and now October is here, and it's just really beginning to level out a bit. We've seen minor upside progress made, but the pace of this rally has really changed. We just recently cleared resistance on Tuesday, and then we fell back below it. On Monday, we saw a breakdown here of this rising trend line here, and then a reversal back up. So we're getting some mixed signals here, and that may be an indication that this index needs a little bit of rest. One more look at the S&P also shows us that obviously from a rally off the August lows, we've entered into this short-term trading range, which we've now cleared in the last couple of days. However, we're only roughly 10 points above this upper end of this trading range right here, which could easily be given back. We could give back 10 points in a day and it wouldn't be a big deal at all. So be cautious out there, as this market, not only the S&P, the Nasdaq, not the indices, but the overall market needs to find some new leaders. If those new leaders don't emerge and these indices continue to kind of flirt with these resistance areas that they're coming into, and they fail to achieve those levels once again, we certainly could see some kind of a multi-week pullback kick in. That's not to say that this rally is done. I certainly would expect to see a higher low established on the next pullback, wherever that carries it. We've already got one higher low in the intermediate term. I think we could create another one and still see a nice end-of-year run. But at this point, this market is getting a little bit stretched, and it's now lacking for leadership. And I think that's certainly something you and I as traders have got to take note of. Thanks for joining me for this video. I will have more videos soon, but in the meantime, trade like a bandit.